Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Ronin Nazarin Talks. I'm Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films.
And I'm Nazarinprod.
And I'm Chris Mohan.
And today we're joined by a special guest. We have Chris Mohan from Chris Mohan. How are you doing?
I mean, I could come up with a really snazzy, cool name, but at a certain point, I just thought to myself, I don't know.
Yeah. We're meant to have another person on, but their internet's been messed up because of the weather. So we'll figure out something later with them to try and make that up. So it was maybe 4, but there was 3. So I've told Ronin he has to do more talking. He has to
Excellent.
make up for it all.
So today we're just having a general look back at the wonderful year of 2021 as far as watching films and physical media releases, not general life.
No, because if it's general life, it'd be like another year of lockdown or
Yes.
sort of lockdown or variations of either coming in of it, whatever.
Well, as it turns out, lockdown's great if you're a film fan. You know,
Yeah.
it only encourages it even more, gives you more expendable income. All of those things are true.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this year I bought a home. I actually built a home cinema in my bedroom. As you can see behind me, I have a screen and everything. That's what I did with lockdown.
Oh, he needs a popcorn dispenser. That's it.
I'm anti popcorn. I've got
Neither am I.
raisins. I've these chocolate covered raisins that I'm really into, and they're my popcorn.
This is interesting because I'm not into popcorn at all either.
I've never actually met anybody who eats popcorn at the cinema.
My wife is that person, and she gets the mix, which I don't like. That really disturbs me because I know what it's like. Nobody mixes crisps.
Yeah.
And you take a handful of crisps and then you go, what have I got? You know, she has sweet and salted in the same. And I go, bizarre.
I'm in the cinema and I'm hungry. I want to buy something. I'll buy wine gums. I like wine gums. They can keep me going through a film. You've still got tons left for later on.
Yeah,
unless it's a really long, boring film, then you're going to eat them all. But
yeah, I mean, when I used to go to the cinema, I was very Spartan, and it's all about the film. I don't want any distractions like eating and drinking.
Well, I was like that, right? And then I started taking my nephew to the cinema, and had to buy him a drink, then sweets. And I'm thinking, I should buy myself some as well since I'm buying him some. And then you end up, that's a habit now, and it does not do your waistline any favors. I've got to say.
Well, on that note, I'll start with the bombshell of, did anybody actually see anything at the cinema this year? Because I didn't.
Nope.
I'm sure Peter did. I did.
Nope, not one.
No, you didn't. You didn't make it.
Nope.
I seen every kind of predictable movie that my daughters would go and see.
Right.
So I just went to see Ghostbusters Afterlife last weekend.
Yeah.
Which was good. You know. It's a nostalgia trip. I did go and see June, right?
Yes.
And I went with my 2 daughters and my wife. And you may or may not have had this experience before when you think something's amazing, but it is quite clear that everybody else in your party in the cinema thinks it's utterly dreadful. Like half an hour in. And so when I was loving it, they just kept on going, how long is this movie? I kept on saying, this is only part 1.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I've just seen Marvel kind of things, and
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of those films you can get now streaming pretty quickly because of Disney. So it's like you don't have to really bother that much. It's like a film's out in the cinema and a month later it's out and streaming. So I've seen Dune, I've seen Bond, I've seen all this stuff, but it's just like I've got a home cinema thing now, so it's like, why bother?
Yeah.
And risk, really.
Yeah, for me, my projector's a home cinema and preferred. I haven't been to the cinema for so long. How was your experience as far as the number of people that were actually there?
There wasn't. None of the times there's been too many. I think I tend not to go day of release anyway, so it'll be a week or two before they'll come out. I think the busiest cinema that I was in this year was French Dispatch, but it was in one of the really small screens.
Right.
But it was still only maybe about a third full. It was not any, maybe it could be an exaggeration. There wasn't very many people in there. So it's one of those things that gets me out of the house and I get to sit in pretty much an empty room.
Yeah.
And drink a bucket of Coke.
That's pretty much the best way.
Yeah. Well, the more busy, yourself, especially as you get older, I say this is probably true for all of us. When you're sitting in the cinema, there's nothing worse than a busy cinema and other people ruin the experience just by virtue of them being there, rustling their bags, digging for popcorn, all that kind of stuff. At that point, you're like, why do I even bother paying the money for this?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain brain dead movies you want the experience, but there's most of the films I really want to see in the cinema, unless Dave my nephew, is I want to see something more art house, and I live so far away from art house cinema at the moment. It's like, well, it's not really. You just hope that it would come through your local area, make a nod film here or there, but usually you're going to catch it later, like on streaming, and just hope the best.
I have no excuse, but I have a local art house cinema and I never get to it just because it's actually in the center of town and therefore I have to brave center of town traffic and all of that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
I'm just making excuses because it is a very good cinema.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like a lot of the art house films come out so quickly on DVD or streaming as well. It's like it's quite easy just to see them pretty quick.
A lot of them are straight out movie this year. A lot of the movie films like Limbo, etc., all came out straight away on Censor came out on movie.
Yeah, and you've also got a VPN. You can see stuff in America at these different times, and you're sorted. Because I know the card counter came out like a week afterwards in America from the cinema release. Just like there's a token release, even though it did well in the cinema. There's a lot of films like that, like the Green Knight.
Green Knight, that's right.
Was out pretty quickly in digital as well. So,
and of course, you do get physical media labels like Second Sight. I think they're releasing Censor in a special edition, I think January or February.
They are.
So it's not really that long to wait anyway. So.
Yeah. I've actually found like a lot of the kind of bigger releases. I don't mind buying streaming because I'm not really that bothered about having a physical copy of a big dumb film. It's like,
because you kind of know what you're going to get. So.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's an odd one I would like to have, but there's some that's like, well, freaky else. I don't really need a copy. Like, I'm actually much more interested in having a copy of David Lynch's Dune than I am of the new Dune, really. And I do. I've got the 4K Steelbook one, the German one that looks really pretty.
Yeah, I'll pick up Dune and Blu-ray because just for Villeneuve, but
yeah,
see what it's like.
It's very, very pretty, very pretty.
Yeah,
because my sister went to see it and she didn't realize it's actually just part one. She was like, "When's the kind of bit with the thing coming?" And it's like, "No, that'll be the second one."
I think that was part of the problem that everybody's with me because they were obviously 2.5 hours in. They were like, "How is this even gonna wrap up?" Yeah. So they thought there was another 2.5 hours to go. Which they're right about.
Yeah, it's a Lord of the Rings thing. Like it's like you're thinking, where's this going? It's like, oh, that's the end of part one. Okay.
And I have to say, like Lynch's film's great and all, but it doesn't have to wrap up quickly as well. It could have done with
another 2 hours.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah,
because the last act of it, the last half of the story takes about half an hour.
That's right.
You can tell that there's so much stuff in the cutting room floor that because he asked them to have it in 2 parts. They said no. And it was like, well, how do you put this together then?
In the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt very much he arrived with the people and then they won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did lots of really cool scenes of Conan's.
Yeah.
And lots of weird Lynch stuff. It's pretty funny that film is still very David Lynch, even though there's so much wrong. There's so many weird bits that he was going to come back to. But it was compromised. It's compromised Lynch, but there's so many bits that he would come back to later in Twin Peaks and all those other movies that because if you see some of the stuff they had in the Twin Peaks Return, there's a very much an echo of Dune in there, sort of like the weird designs in the first couple episodes. It's like, yeah, we can see the link.
Only thing is, it makes far too much sense for it to be a David Lynch film in general. You know, you can follow it. There's a pretty decent through line from this film even to Villeneuve. You can see it nearly scene for scene in a lot of bits, you know, and shot for shot.
Yeah. Well, that was before he went and did his own thing, really. I think that was the film that took him out of that and just went, okay, I'll do this now. This is my...
Yeah, because if it wasn't for Dune, we wouldn't have Blue Velvet. So.
Yeah.
Or if it wasn't for Dune being, you know, what it was, it wouldn't have Blue Velvet.
Well, the one thing you defend David Lynch's Dune for is a magnificent mess. It's like, it's a great disaster. It's not just a kind of disaster. It's like wonderful disaster. Sort of like Flash Gordon, it was a disaster too, and it's like, God, this is gorgeous. It's like,
Flash Gordon's perfect. Yeah, because I didn't even bother with the Arrow version. I've just got one version because that documentary got dropped. So.
Yeah, that's why
it's on the media book. Yeah,
that's why the German one just like straight away. It's really sad. I've actually got it in streaming version and on the desk, the 4K. I'm that much of a fanboy.
All the films were like, Peter. That's just the way it goes.
I know. The Lynch Dune's always been a kind of sentimental favourite for me.
Yeah.
Even though I know its flaws.
Those are the best films. That's when you take ownership of them. There's no point in loving a film to death that everybody loves.
Yeah.
Where's the fun in that?
No.
Yeah.
Like The Thing. Like everybody loves The Thing. You know, who would go over the top about The Thing?
Ronin would.
It's only 14 different editions. Put it this way, I bought like the 4K Steelbook and I don't even have 4K capabilities. It's like future-proofing.
It looks gorgeous in 4K, by the way. It looks really gorgeous in 4K. Just to make sure you know what you're missing. Yeah. It's one of those 4Ks.
Maybe get there, just especially for The Thing.
Yeah.
It looks pretty good in Blu-ray as well. I'm going to put that out there.
Does.
I know, it does. It's a really well shot film, but you can see more details in the depths of the like the actual the monsters look so much better in 4K. You see more details, the shadow and thing. They look, oh wow, this really looks something.
Yeah. Which
was one of the reasons I was so impressed by it. Was like, yeah, this is worth the money. But it's one of those 4Ks that is worth the 4K. Some of them doesn't matter, but this one it's like, yeah, this matters. This is something special.
How about the dark scenes in it?
They look gorgeous because there's difference between the shadows, so everything's perfectly placed. So it looks really good because the darks are really dark, and the brights are really bright, and it really gives you a real sense of the atmosphere. And the explosions look gorgeous in 4K, look really bright, and so yeah, gushing over The Thing. What a shocker with us involved.
How does the computer chess look?
Like computer chess.
Excellent. That's the main thing.
You're on Amazon now, aren't you? Buying the 4K
yeah,
box set him.
4K, it's like...
You've sold me. I still don't have a player. I still don't have a TV.
Yeah, well, I can do
minor details.
I can do 4K because I need a new TV, basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why not just buy a 4K version? Because I need a new TV.
Exactly.
It wasn't like I was dying for 4K. It was just like, okay, it's time to upgrade a TV. And it turns out...
TV...
Yeah. I'll let you.
I was just going to say, my TV's not actually that old, so it's a bit difficult to get you. I'll buy a new 4K TV and put that one in the bathroom. You know, it's like...
Yeah. It's a great idea, though.
Yeah. So I remember the funny thing was my TV then broke, my new TV, so I got a new one, which is a years later model, which had massive improvements. So I was actually locked out because it looked so much better. This the newer version, so I now have my TV at the moment as this year's model, just because the old one broke. So
I suppose it's either that, and I have a 50-inch monitor for my PC, which is maybe a bit excessive.
Yeah. My monitor's actually one of my old TVs, which I thought was going to burn out, and it still hasn't. Years later, and it's like, wow, this is still going.
Yeah, convincing me. Maybe it's time to get a new 4K TV after all.
Well, the thing is, it's actually quite good for editing if you've got a decent sized TV. I mean, you don't need anything else, but editing it really helps.
It is Christmas after all.
Yeah.
It's just,
Go and spend money when you go. I was telling Ronin, I had a pre-order for the Bond 4K, and I just cancelled it and just thought I'm buying a few of those Arrow sales things instead because there's a few I wanted, like Trip to the Moon and Merry Christmas and Mr. Lawrence and Big Clock, and then a Frenchman's View of America from the 50s. And I was like, yeah, all these I'd rather watch the new Bond film again.
Yeah,
I can see where Frenchman's great. The other thing about the Bond release is the artwork doesn't match the rest of the Daniel Craig spines, and that kind of stuff just makes me go, not day one.
No.
Yeah.
It was that thing, is like,
see,
if I wait about 3 months and get it for like a 2 for $25 offer, and
Indeed,
it's like,
yeah.
and that's fine. That's just fine. I'm good for that.
yeah, just briefly on spines, I see the next Black Label 101 is a red spine again instead of the white spine. It's like, what are you doing?
That Silent Night set really upsets me.
Yeah, but they're doing it again for the Australian serial killer film. It's a red spine.
Okay.
It's like, what?
Can I point out I don't care? Like, just
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I do. It
I'm
bothers
not
me
to stay
greatly.
up at night.
Do you know,
Why
I
would
actually
you?
have this thing of in that case, it's the same with actually second run in the Mark Isaacs box set, and it'll be the same when Hungarian Masters one comes out on Monday. It just goes to the end. It just take it out of sequence. I don't mind that it doesn't line up numbers wise. It just sits by itself at the end. So Silent Night one at the end, the rest of them line up.
It's actually the fact with the Second Son DVDs, some of them have the colour at the top, but some of them have it at the bottom as well. So they've like mixed it for the DVDs. It's like,
I feel I'm in the most tragic conversation ever now.
This is like a proper support group, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, this is like, okay, it's one of those things. Suddenly, is like, I don't have that much of a problem. I'm fine compared to these two idiots.
Yeah. This is the premise for As Good as It Gets too.
Yeah,
Yes. It's like,
Yeah.
I
Spines
mean,
lining up in
if you're taking the
twos.
trouble to make numbered and make everything in order, why would you just stick one that's like, I know it's
I'm going to
Christmas,
start crying in a
but
minute.
Silent
Just,
Night.
Pity.
just
At least it's
Keep it
two
white.
now. Well, it used to just be one, and now it's two. So at least they've set a
Yeah.
pattern. The problem's going to be if the next big one isn't red, it's going to be. I mean, honestly, I think I'll just completely break down.
sell the lot.
Sell them. They're gone. They're dead to me. Oh dear.
Let's be honest, we're probably both secretly looking for a way out of the Black Label 101.
Every time I'm out, to pull me back in. It's one of those kind of labels.
Yeah.
Last broadcast was interesting though. It's an interesting little film. The
Stop it.
latest one.
Yeah, yeah. The things I just buy them randomly. I don't really care. I just buy the ones I want,
Yeah.
and that's it. And I hear this, and I was like, I'm glad I've only buy some of them. It's like I'm doing pretty good. Like
Fortunately,
I'm
only
not
that
buying
many-
stuff like Skinner and things. They're there for
Skinner's
idiots.
fun. Yeah,
See,
fortunately, I'm only...
some of these ones I actually buy like in streaming just for like £2
Yeah.
to see the films because I don't really care. But some of them is like I want to see the film. And that's it. I don't need the extras.
You get a nice white spine.
Some of the best extras, I think. So those Blackberry releases have some of the best put together extras at any release, even though
Yeah,
the
the
films
Spookies
do
one
not deserve them.
was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got Spookies and I got Brain Dead, the Brain Dead one,
Yeah.
and I also got Phase 4. I got those three
Yeah.
during the recent sales. But again, I'm not
The
trying
hard-
to spines, but I just want those
Yeah.
films.
The
Yeah,
Hard the
Phase 4 's
Duck
fun.
disc is ridiculous for extras. Not that I don't even like that film at all, but
What one's that?
Hard the Duck.
Oh yeah.
The extras
I-
are really interesting.
Unbelievable.
Would you believe
About
I've
what
got
it
that in
could have
4K
been.
streaming?
I would believe it. I would.
It's true. It's definitely getting what the hell is this next year? And Hell
Yeah.
2. Those are two of my films I've got for planned for what the hell is this?
They're worthy contenders.
Yeah, but it's really fascinating about the actual background of Howard the Duck and the comic strip, which I didn't know about, and what the film could have been or should have been. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm just glad they didn't remake it. And nowadays,
Yeah.
but had an 18 license and a fully,
Yeah.
CGI phallus.
Well, they've got Howard the Duck now in the Avengers stuff. They've got him as a background character in Guardians. So he is there. He is waiting for his big moment.
Yes.
It's coming.
Yeah.
No, they did it. They did it with Raccoon.
Yeah.
That's true. It
Yeah.
is.
Should we actually get on point at some point, or are we going to?
Yes.
this is your show. This isn't my show.
I was
I'm a
thinking, I
guest.
use the line Ronin to keep me. I'm the one who takes it off point.
Sorry, it
He's
has
the one who
been,
keeps
it
it
has
on
been
point.
drifted a bit.
And this time he just went straight to the off point thing. I was thinking, am I that the grown up here this time? Is this if I'm the grown up, it's a bad sign.
Well, is there any directors you've discovered this year that have taken your fancy?
Toyota. Basically, because I've been watching his box sets. The only one I haven't watched so far is Hanging Garden, but I've watched all the other ones like Ghost of Peculiar Yourself and Day of Destruction and Blue Spring, Porno Star, all that. And it's something Hoos has been banging on about for a while, and I've just been ignoring them. And then this year, I actually decided to actually follow his advice and watch them.
Yeah, I've just
great.
got Flash to watch.
That's amazing. That's such a good film. That's one of my favorites of Toyota. That's my favorite of the box set, of the new box set. And it's the one no one's heard of, but it's the one I really, really liked.
Yeah. How about you, Chris? Any directors?
I haven't
that you've
any
discovered?
new directors. I was looking through, Howard Hawks and stuff is my most watched director this year, apparently. I've nothing really new aside from the odd film. Maybe Maria Matsaros. I've watched a couple of her movies. Hungarian director. Obviously Second Run led, all of that kind of stuff. But nobody that went down rabbit holes previous years like Almodovar or anything like that. Nothing
So what films did you watch of hers?
Adoption, Diary from a Children.
Yeah.
There's another Diary of My Mother or something, I think was the other one.
I've Adoption, and I bought it. I'm still waiting to arrive in the post. I bought it in the latest hour.
Oh, and there is that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's on its way. It's been the post around here has been pretty slow. So
it was just voted as number 2 release of the year in the Sight and Sound poll on the BFI.
All right, that's cool.
Their magazine. So,
I just like the look of it. It was just like, this looks interesting. It's like
it's an interesting movie. I don't think it particularly deserves number 2 spot, but I think it's really interesting. I think her view in the world is pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's what I'm looking forward to when it finally arrives. Just Christmas post.
Yeah.
Indeed. She should release a box set of fucked up families. I mean, that's pretty much what Maria Matsaros seems to be about, as far as I can see from the films, are weird or kooky families.
Yep. So what are you running? Answer your own question.
Well, obviously the Dardennes, even though I'd seen 2 Days, One Night and The Sun like years ago, but doing the series, the Dardennes really blew me away just for their approach, and I don't know why more filmmakers don't do it, just don't tell the audience stuff. And obviously I went down an Italian hole, which wasn't the acclaimed Masters hole.
Mm-hmm.
It was Francesco Rossi and Elio Petri and Moretti and other directors that just absolutely blew me away.
So keep going into that hole. Keep talking about that hole when you go.
Yeah, because I mean, I did actually watch La Ventura this year. But it didn't make the list because I actually thought it was just okay. I know that's sacrilege, but
yeah,
me,
I really like that film.
Yeah, to me, the Rossi and the Petri are just way more up my street than. Granted, again, I haven't seen a lot of Fellini. I haven't seen a lot of Rossellini. I haven't seen a lot of Antonioni. I'll get to them, but to me, Rossi and Petri are in my wheelhouse. So that was really a lot of fun. And in part, thanks to Chris, I saw a lot more Jacques Becker in Studio Canal, Vintage, or World Cinema. I'm doing a really good job with Becker. I haven't got the last one. It's on my Christmas list. But Becker, Latrue, and Castor, mainly for the ending. I loved it.
Yeah. Both they've been streaming, but I haven't watched them yet. I need to. See, although those films come out and stream for like £3, sometimes like, I'll buy it and I'll watch at some point.
I think Jacques Becker, through these releases, I think will get a bit more love and kind of reappraised. And again, he's one of those guys like Petrie who died like way too early.
Latrue's just one of those films that nobody talks about as being one of the greatest of all time, but it is absolutely probably the greatest prison film I think I've ever seen.
I was going to ask, is that the prison film? It was like it's one of those ones that you need to watch.
It's right up there with Man Escaped.
Yeah, that's good.
And the other thing about Italian cinema as well, like you forget until you delve into it, and it was again through mostly yourself that you see, God, there are so many layers and periods in and styles in Italian cinema that you kind of gloss over. You know, people look at the cult stuff, they look at the art house stuff, and then they forget about everything else that was in between. And it just goes on and on and on and on.
Because we've got so many genres with Jolly and the westerns and the police stuff and the crime stuff and the art house stuff and the political stuff, and it's just like
there's a lot
amazing.
Plus, we get western stuff, which is all political as well. I just watched Torso, the horror movie, and it's like there's a whole lot of stuff about Italy in there that was like most horror movies do not have this kind of like detail about the world around them. They just don't, and it's like half this film is about the kind of the way people act in Italy and the way they act badly, and it's like then there's a serial killer stuff at the end of it.
Yeah, because again, Jolly kind of get dismissed as like the surface stuff. And you could argue like Argento has more just kind of surface stuff, whereas the other guys kind of have a little bit more depth to them.
Well, Argento was about the melodramatic kind of weird psychology, and the other guys were more political, I think, and they were doing a job in a genre that wasn't personal to them, so they could do interesting things that were off from what Argento was doing. Though I'm a massive Argento fan. But they are different. No, a lot of the films are more political. They Don't Touch Your Duckling, which is all about the Catholic Church, and it's like, wow, this is pretty brutal.
But the thing that, sorry,
I was going to say, Argento has definitely got a style. You can spot an Argento film, even if you've seen a new one, you can see how different his was from everybody else. It was just I can't even put my finger. It's like a little more polish or a little more novelness or something. I don't really know what that was, you know.
I would say the thing that I've learned through the Italian cinema is really appreciating that north-south divide that on the surface, when you look at Italian cinema, you might not appreciate, but just about not every film, but a lot of the films, the stuff about the difference between the north and the south and the attitude between the north compared to the south, which is kind of, it's almost like every country has a north-south divide.
So you went Italian films then? You're fully Italian stuff?
Yeah, it was kind of Italian and Japanese. I mean, I think we might get into labels a bit later, but Kino Lorber, because they actually released a couple of Francesco Rossi, Illustrious Corpses, which again has one of the greatest titles of all time, and the Lucky Luciano film, because it's one of those things. I was about to spend like 20 quid on bad DVDs of those films, and of course Kino released them in Blu-ray, which is just spectacular, especially because Illustrious Corpses has an Alex Cox commentary, which is absolute gold. So it was kind of Italy with bits of Japan and bits of strange stuff in between.
Yeah, I mean that's the weird thing about streaming. I find is you can get some films you can't go get anywhere, like in HD or in 4K. I mean, like I pre-ordered The Card Counter on 4K in iTunes. And it's like, well, there's no way of getting that in 4K released physically. There's just no way in hell. So I'll take it, and then I'll probably buy the Blu-ray as well.
Because the Rossi one I'm really hoping for is the Matai case with Volonte, which again, I think I've said in one of my videos, the DVD that I had, it's one of those where they speak lots of dialogue, but you only get like one line of subtitle. So it kind of marred the film a bit because you felt I'm not actually getting the full story.
Shortchanged, yeah.
So hopefully there'll be a Blu-ray of that at some point, because I think that was Oscar nominated or might have actually won the Oscar for foreign film.
Well, that was my question with your Italian journey. Was it a case of one or two releases sparked it and you already had those in your collection, or did it just make you dig into?
It made me spend some money. The Francesco Rossi, because like Hands Over the City, I did spend a bit more on the Eureka, which was out of print.
Out of print, yeah.
I chased down and got on DVD The Many Wars Ago, which is just a stunning World War I film with Volonte. And then I found out it was in Blu-ray, so I then immediately bought the Blu-ray because it's just like so good. I mean, for me, it's even better than Pass of Glory. It's just a stunning war film. So it was kind of that. And then it just made me make the jump and buy The Organizer with Mastroianni, which I'd seen John Sayles recommend. And because I was already in an Italian hole with Petrie and Rossi. And the organizer is just phenomenal.
Yeah. Has anyone found that Eureka this year has been a bit less than usual? Like they're doing a lot of like kung fu movies, which I like, but it's like, where's the balance? It seems unbalanced this year.
When I was picking my discs out, I had to force myself to pick one of the Masters of Cinema. I have to say the kung fu stuff's been really interesting. Really enjoyed it. But the Masters of Cinema, I mean, they've all been very much much. There's been a lot of silent movies, but not even silent classic movies.
Yeah.
I think the next one's coming. Probably is like the Indian Tomb. I mean, actually, I'm really looking forward to, even though I'll probably watch half of it.
Yeah. I remember you used to have tons of great stuff, and that the last year or so, it's like I've noticed I spent a lot less on them, and it's like good for my wallet, but bad for my collection because it's like, well, it's not as
they had Johnny Guitar.
Yeah, but I usually look forward to see what they've got out, and recently it's like putting up anything out I want. You know,
because I've kind of backed off of the kung fu stuff because there just seems to be so much of it.
There's so much of it.
So I might kind of revisit it if it gets a bit cheaper. But you're right.
Yeah.
The Masters of Cinema.
This one is really good.
Low.
This one is. Yeah. I'm halfway through this one. This is wonderful.
Cinema Vengeance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine just arrived. I have to say, like I've went kind of up and down in the kung fu movies all year, and kind of went, oh, they're very samey. But there's nothing quite like sticking on a kung fu movie.
Yeah.
You know, to chill out and relax and.
Yeah, well, I think as long as you don't watch them one after another, you have a break. I really enjoy them, but if I'm doing them all the time, it's too samey. But I have just bought the Shaw Brothers box set. I have.
Yeah, that as well.
They've taken my money away now, so I know what's coming.
I have.
Yeah, so it's like, and I did.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, I also bought Joe to the Death, which is because I bought that when I pre-ordered the Obayashi box set.
The War Trilogy,
yeah. So that should be coming in the next few days, hopefully. So
I got the Obayashi Thursday, I think.
You're right.
Way.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Mine hasn't been posted yet. I'm still waiting.
Mine too. I have to say the Obayashi and the two of the box sets. Like before that, I think Third Window had a bit of a mixed year in general because they didn't have very many releases out, to be perfectly honest. And then they hit Beyond the Infinite 2 minutes and these things. But they've obviously changed who's doing their artwork for those last two box sets because they're very much noticeably a step up.
Yeah. Well, I think because it's only one guy doing it, I think it's a case of one of those things where he's probably doing the box set and it was like, well, it's taking a while. And he's doing Tsukamoto in January.
Yes, that's the
Goblin. And so I had a DVD, but it was trying subtitles on it. So I was going to watch it, then they announced the release of this new version. I was like, okay, just pre-order.
Yeah.
You know, and,
I picked up the second run of the Arrow box set, the Tsukamoto, because that's got Vital and Blu-ray, which is my favourite Tsukamoto. So.
Yeah.
Well, I have a Tsukamoto film on my list, I have to say.
Yeah.
For the year.
I would just quickly say about Third Window, I would certainly recommend Melancholic, which I did a review of, because that was a brilliant film.
It was last year, I'm pretty sure. But just a brilliant film. Actually, Melancholic, my wife usually when she comes in watching something that's Third Window, she walks in, looks at the screen for about 5 minutes and leaves and goes, what the hell are you watching? But she actually sat down and watched all of Melancholic. She missed the first 20 minutes, but it made enough sense and she loved it. Yeah, because it's got a heart, which counts. A lot of these kind of films are just cold and just kind of about the violence, but that's actually about the relationship with his family, and it does actually have a heart. So
I haven't watched it yet. I've got it. I have not watched it. So
it's great.
Yeah,
that and Fish Story are the two from last year that I just kind of went, oh, these are really
special. That's another one I've got.
I've still to see that one.
It's so much fun.
I have a massive backlog of Third Window titles.
Yeah.
But them and Second Run are the two that I've spent more on the last year or two than everywhere else. Like because there's so much back catalogue stuff to get, plus just watch them all. It's just like there's just a lot there. So
and they're all again hard to watch back to back. You know what I mean? The kind of thing you need to sit on and kind of space out. You know, and it's as well. There's only few releases of them because I don't think I could cope otherwise.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. There's lots of great TV releases, but half of them I wouldn't bother with anyway. Another half I really want. It's like one of those ones that's like, well, I don't trust the taste enough to really.
I think Criterion have really kind of went downhill of it as far as the releases. As far as to me, obviously.
As far as to me, but,
yeah.
I had thought that, and then I watched a lot of the things that I thought weren't interesting to me, and I bloody loved them. Oh, some of those films this year were just the most amazing discoveries for me. And really, I don't even, one of those classic ones, I don't even know where I picked it up. And then threw it on, and I was like, this is good.
Yeah.
I suppose that's the joy of it.
So. It is indeed.
Yeah, because I picked up Bringing Up Baby this year. I picked up Criminal Code, which is not Criterion, but another Howard Hawks one. I love Howard Hawks, so I'll pick up NES films quite easily. War and Peace because of someone doing a review of it.
Yeah, War and Peace is that was my number one film of the year. It's just gobsmacking.
I got The Samurai as well from Criterion.
Mine hasn't arrived yet. It's still out in delivery.
Yeah, the post has been terrible recently. It's like some stuff you get really quick, and other stuff it's like forever, and it's like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I got Deep Cover. It was great to see Deep Cover getting a Criterion.
Yeah.
That's been underrated for so long, or neglected for so long.
Yeah, I really want to get naked, but it's some BFI.
Not right now.
BFI.
I know.
I did what Secrets and Lies.
I knew it was just said it. I was like, oh,
I really, really want to get naked.
Yeah, it's like
bottom half only. We'll be fine.
It's that thing. It's like I just saying it. You realize, oh well, I've really screwed this one up.
Well, speaking of which, one of the great surprises of the year for me was Butt Boy. Butt Boy is an essential film.
I'm still not sure that isn't a whole parody. Still, even when I watched your first video with it, and then I watched the subsequent top 50, and I thought he's carrying this joke a bit too far.
Yeah, because it's like you think it's going to be something like the Grimy Strangler, the Greasy Strangler, but they actually play it straight, and it ends up being like even better than Seven. But it's like. It's the opposite of Swallow, which I picked up in second sight, but I still haven't watched it yet.
I have a Swallow as well. I need to watch it.
Yeah. Instead of down the throat, it's up the bum. I mean, it's...
Yeah, I have to watch Butt Boy. I've got Graham Manfred Film. He reviewed it and I went to buy it, but I have not watched it yet. And I keep on hearing great things. But one film I liked a lot is Why Don't You Just Die, which I've watched this year. The Russian one.
Yeah,
it's good fun. Not amazing, but it's one of those ones that's really enjoyable watch. It's a first time director, and it's like, I'm having a lot of fun with this one. But
cinema's all about.
Yeah. The big surprise for me, shocking surprise for me is I watched Find Me Guilty, the Sidney Lumet film, maybe Vin Diesel, and I was like, this is actually good. I would not expect this at all. I expected, because Lumet sometimes goes off the boil badly, does some weird films. Like, why is he doing this? What's up?
Yeah.
This is one who's like, well, this is the Sidney Lumet film that stars Vin Diesel, and it's actually works pretty good. It's like, I was absolutely shocked. I just put it on because I was bored, and I thought, oh, fuck, I would watch it. I've nothing I'm dying to watch tonight. And it was a massive surprise. I'm still shocked I liked it as much as I did, because I'm not even the biggest Sidney Lumet fan. Some films in the film maybe I really like, but I don't automatically just go and see a film because he directed it, because it's like there's a lot of stuff he's made that I'm not keen on.
Is that his last film, or was he?
Pardon?
Is that his last film?
No, he made that was before he made the Philip Seymour Hoffman one or anything. Right. This is one he made in the mid 2000s. So it's definitely worth seeing, because it's a comedy as well. It's a comedy that's funny and it's really silly, but also serious at the same time. It's got a weird, nice, interesting mix.
Cool.
Yeah, that was a surprise. I was like, that was so shocking to me that I actually enjoyed that.
Any surprises for you, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'd say the films that surprise me are the films that sit in genres that I would normally avoid, like a plague. So they're like the counterculture kind of, that 80s, 70s, 80s counterculture that's about a bit of drugs, but people being a bit weird or being outside. Those films normally just turn me off.
Yeah.
So like Light Sleeper, although Light Sleeper being a Paul Schrader film maybe saves it. I think Light Sleeper is probably, it might be my favorite Paul Schrader film. I actually think it's absolutely brilliant. And even something like The Outsiders, which came out recently, Francis Ford Coppola, I'd never seen, and it pertains to be a counterculture film, but it's actually all about poetry and and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of a bit melodramatic in that way, but like one of that 4K release is just one of the most beautiful films I have ever seen in my entire life. You just constantly bowled over by how good it looks on screen. But those were the kind of things that kind of surprised me, because I normally would turn away from.
Yeah, I love Light Sleeper. Light Sleeper is one of my favorite Schrader films. I saw it when it came out. Yeah. I was a film student then. And I've always been a big fan of it, but it was one of those films that came and went, and there's like a small cut of people love it, and then no one else watched it, and it was like, what the hell? But
yeah,
like
when
good
Indicator,
stuff.
Yeah, when Indicator announced it, it was fantastic.
Yeah, because
it was almost as good as when they announced Beast Must Die. But
yeah. They released at the same time they released Geronimo, which is another film I really liked. It was an underrated film. Yeah.
Yeah, the extras on Geronimo are fantastic.
Yeah.
As far as how much of it was fairly actually real characters. No.
Yeah, it's also the fact that it was they lost 20 minutes of the film before release, and you can tell in the film they lost 20 minutes before release, because you just sense it in the film there's more here that we should have seen.
Yeah.
So restore the Walter Hill cut of Geronimo. Some bastard spend the money.
Yeah. But it's one of the best releases as far as extras, because it's just so good.
Yeah.
Indicator they just continue to be one of the most interesting companies as far as releasing films go. You'll always get something out of what they're releasing, and you go, God, why have I never heard of that film? Or why, if I've heard of it, is nobody talking about it?
Yeah, for me, one of those was The Big Fix with Richard Dreyfuss, which is absolutely fantastic, because one of those 70s offbeat detective things. He broke his wrist in reality before the shoot, so they just incorporated into the script. So every person he meets asks him how he breaks his wrist, and he gives them a different answer. I mean, it's just so good. So that's a perfect Indicator film. I think we're now used to what an Indicator film is. Whether you like it or not, it's got a certain kind.
Yeah, I think some of those labels that are run by one or two people actually work better, because it's one person's taste. And either you're into the same things as them or you're not, and that's it. And it's much easier for you. You can work it out. Because there used to be that thing with Arrow, and now because it's more
corporate,
it's less so. But then again, people were really worried when the Zavi was going to become, and the Lost Arrow Academy was going to become really commercial. And it's like, there's some stuff like those 4K things, but they're still releasing really interesting things. It's like, it's not like it's. I always find something there that I'm interested in, and it's ultimately I feel it's going to be the same as it was before for the amount of films I find interesting, because there was always stuff there that I never found interesting even in the past. So
I mean, obviously I am a slave to Indicator, but I don't mind it, because there's always something. I mean, their March releases are really interesting, a couple of Mexican
I think next year's releases have started to show that they're doing things a bit differently next year. The slate for next year appears to be moving away from that American kind of forgotten gem to around other places. But Arrow's problem for me has been that they've diluted a lot of their releases with the other re-releases and stuff there. So when you look at the slates, you kind of get distracted by that and not concentrate on the good stuff that's actually there.
They're doing Dillinger in January for UK, and it was like, I was about to cave and buy the American version.
I've got them
just before they announced that, and it was like, and thankfully I just waited. I was like, oh, good, because I mean, it was one of those ones I was literally going to buy it. I was like, pretty much, I've had enough patience. I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, I bought it a couple of years ago, and I was blown away by it because it's fantastic. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
So I think I was kind of bounced back a little bit. Ultimately, I think they're now kind of. Yeah, they're doing the 4K releases. I just buy the 4Ks on streaming. I'm not going to spend a fortune on those things, but
yeah, they had a couple of really good ones. Obviously, the Damaging set, which I was on the fence for getting, but I'm so glad I did. And apart from anything else, the box is beautiful, and the Vengeance Trails is fantastic. The Years of Lead's fantastic. I mean, so
Yeah, we've had a
I'll
really
put
good
up
year.
with the 4K Argentos because I'm
Yeah.
not going to
But the
get
thing
involved
is,
with them for that. So,
you used to get stuff like you used to get these trashy horror movies mixed with these world cinema stuff.
Yeah.
So it was always that's always been our mix of the kind of trashy and the good, and they're still keeping to it. I mean, the one the Great Yoki War thing they've just
yeah, the
released.
yokai set. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So they're still doing like every year they're still putting out stuff is like, well, that's good, that's really good. And yeah, those Mexican
War
horror
creatures.
films. Yeah, those horror films that you mentioned is like, yeah, I'm definitely tempted to those instantly. And it's like, well, if they still keep mixing it up, I'm fine. Because
like I said, but that co-work creatures, we could have another 6 or 7 box sets of stuff like that. That stuff's interesting. That stuff's cool. And they, you know, have Kim Newman on them all. You'll turn any film into a must-watch with a Kim Newman introduction.
Yeah.
Those Japanese Invisible Man movies, they've had the Gamera set, which was gorgeous and wonderful. I've got the big box one, and it's just
I've
beautiful.
Got the TV ones, which...
Yeah, amateur.
Yeah.
But, in retrospect, probably the right move. Because that Gamera box set, I don't know what to do with. I keep moving it around the room because it doesn't actually fit in. It's the same problem as Shaw Brothers set when it arrives. It'll be, where am I actually going to put this?
Yeah. The thing is, mine fits with my Bergman collection one because the same bulky thing. So, and then my Godzilla box set's the same thing. So they've all piled together on top of something, and it works fine.
Great doorstops. Amazing doorstops. Very expensive doorstops, but
there's some of the stuff I was done. I think it's because everyone's worried about the Zavi thing. The people have overreacted a little bit. Like, you actually look at the stuff, they've released a lot of good stuff this year, and they've released a lot of films I never thought anyone would ever release.
Somebody's comparing. I think their volume has dropped. I think that might be something to do with the complaints, but I think in general, I look every month and go, there's something that I want to watch out of that, or there's something that's worth taking into. And
you can see something a lot of people want to see. There's always stuff there. It's like, there's a lot of variants. You may have a month or two where there's nothing much for you. Then there's another month where it's everything. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah, but let's be honest, as a business, they have to make things that are going to sell. So
that's right.
It's a balance, and I'm fine with them releasing stuff that I'm not interested, but there is going to be a market for if that means getting stuff like the Cold War Creatures box set, which nobody else is really going to bother with.
Yeah.
And the fact that like they may be releasing a bit less, but they're doing far less vanilla releases. Like most companies actually have that kind of here's a trailer and a 10-minute interview, and we'll call that a release. There's very little of that going on from Arrow now. The old Academy releases used to be a bit, they used to fall into that category a little bit, but that all seems to have disappeared.
Yeah, but the titles to the Academy stuff was really good, so it didn't really matter. Yeah. And you get some really obscure films you always wanted in the past with Arrow as well, that is like, who else would release about Arrow? I mean, they released Animal Factory, and it's like, I've been dying for release for that for years. And it was like, if someone finally released it. And there's a lot of films like that. It's like, who else would release it? Them or Indicator. Indicator released Geronimo and Light Sleeper, which are two films we've just mentioned. It's like, who else would release them?
Yeah.
I mean, the only person everyone's ignoring is John Sayles, just to annoy Ronin.
Yeah. That's really quite annoying.
Well, but 88's coming out in 88 films next year.
I know, that was a bizarre choice for 88 films. Like,
yeah.
I mean, Brother from Another Planet would be in 88 films.
Yeah. But maybe they might deal with sales. Maybe they're going to do some sales stuff.
That would be wonderful.
I was going to buy the Criterion ones, but I'm just going to buy the 88 films one instead. So I liked it. I saw it years ago.
I think it's vanilla, though. I don't think there's anything else on it apart from the film. I think I could be wrong about that, but yeah, the film's great.
Yeah, so
properly great.
Yeah, I mean, you can get City of Hope and streaming from HD, and that's it. You think, well, that should be
but let's not go down that
hole. Other Indicator releases. I mean, I'm too away from haven't watched all of the single releases this year, which I'm just taking as like a minor trophy for myself.
Yeah,
the box sets are always something I struggle with. Things change.
That was one of the ones, was the Holy Grail release, because I mean I had that in DVD where you flip the disc halfway through.
Yeah.
I mean,
the good old days of the early 2000s.
Things Change is just so beautiful. It's just such a great wee film.
It's got a lot of heart. It's got
Yeah.
a lot of thing, and actually really nice that John Beach went from being cast as one character to another,
Yeah.
and then actually just totally making that work.
Yeah, and the extras in that, the way Joe Mantegna talks about him, it's just it was actually quite moving the way he
It
was
was.
talking.
And
And again, for people who just view Mamet as a swear machine, it's just a beautiful little change of pace. It's a little PG, and it's just absolutely fantastic.
the exchange was great.
Yeah. Well, one big thing for me this year was Napoleon, which I finally went to watching.
Abel Gance.
Yeah.
To watch it.
It was a wonderful, because I used my projector on it, and it was wonderful. And just the cinema feeling of it, just the feeling of this is made for cinema. It was not made for watching on TV. You need to watch it in a big screen, and it is so long. You need to see it in parts, but it's definitely worth it because it's like there's so much energy, and it does not feel like a 7-hour film. It feels like, you know, something far shorter just by the energy and all the action I've got in it. It's all interesting, and Napoleon's a complete nut. And it was like, that's why you need to release these old films, because some of them are so much more modern than stuff you get nowadays. They put a lot of stuff nowadays to shame by how modern, how fast moving they are, and how energetic they are.
Sometimes when you watch old movies and then you go and look at the year that it was made, you just can't help just hold your head in your hands sometimes and go like, "Hi."
Yeah.
I mean, how did that happen?
A lot of hard work usually. A lot of the time,
Well,
people forget how hard it was to make films like before CGI. I mean,
the camera was the size of half a room.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
I watched Rebecca the other day. Like, it's 1940. Rebecca is a astounding achievement for 1940. It's just when that came out at the time, people just walked out of cinemas and went, "Well, there's never been a film like that."
Look at some of the Metropolis. That was made. Mind blowing how did that get made? And it was like, because Fritz Lang was a lunatic and everyone was terrified of him. And everyone was working 24 hours a day probably for months. And I'm sure
it worked.
Yeah, and I'm sure most of them were hiding something for most of the time to stay awake.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think that's what we forget about when we're watching films is how much hard work it is.
Yeah.
And because I mentioned to you before, I was just watching the Mad Max films on my projector. And when you actually watch the projector, you really appreciate how much work went into these stunts, how dangerous these stunts were. It was like, you really see the craftsmanship of these stunts. It's like, wow, even some of the lesser films like Thunderdome, it's like, some of the stuff that's amazing. Some of the shots are amazing. That must have taken forever to do. And it's stuff down doing CGI, and it's like, no, this was real. They built a massive plane in the desert. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah, because even War and Peace, not to get back to that again, in 1966, for the burning of Moscow, they pretty much built, not all of Moscow, but they built a huge chunk of Moscow and also set it in fire. And they're working in real fire. They're shooting it in real fire. They built a track all the way around the entire thing, set it in fire, and then just kind of shot around it. I mean, obviously, it's just nuts.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other big things for me this year was the City of Life and Death, all but set in China under a Japanese occupation. And it's a massive massacre from Japan over Chinese citizens. And that was like an epic 2-hour film. And it was huge, and they must have built so many ruins, and it was epic. And it was wonderful. It was really depressing. It's like, how did you manage to get budget for that, for such a depressing film? It's obviously the Chinese government paid for it because it was like all about Chinese surviving horrible situation. But it was like, it's so brutal. It's just utterly brutal. And it's like, that was made before every Chinese film became a propaganda machine. This was much more like a human, survival,
And now you have 3 people in front of a green screen.
Yeah, but CGI was meant to be a tool. It was never meant to take over. It was meant to help.
Meant to just augment.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. That's why ILM developed CGI, was like, so you can do background stuff and not have to be limited and basically not get a film made because you can't afford the massive background. It's like, you use CGI, you can afford it. It's meant to be affordable help to people. Yeah. It wasn't meant to be.
That's become a thing where you throw money at a film. You throw money in the screen because it's the most known way to get the result you want, rather than have to think about how you're going to craft it and maybe do it on a lesser budget. You just go, well, that's going to cost this amount of £1 million for somebody to do it.
Yeah. I mean, look how now retro is, and how people are going back to like action movies that actually have like proper stunts, like the recent Mad Max film or the John Wick films, because they're doing this for real, and they just use CGI to take out the wires and add a few things here or there, but they have to go and actually like learn how to do this and beat each other up and get bruised and all that stuff.
I mean, I always go back to 2001 and the jogging round.
Yeah,
it's like I know how they did it, but every time I see it, it's still like is amazing.
It's still so impressive how
they had to figure out how to do it. And it's like,
yeah, and even like even more recently, I mean, they still did that. We did Mission to Mars. They still use that same technique, and like, nowadays they would just use the CGI. And there was even then that was 2000. There was like, no, we're just going to use the old Kubrick technique, because it's simpler, and we've got technicians. We can do this better, like simpler, but you can still use the same technique. And it was like nowadays they wouldn't even do that. Well, apart from Chris Nolan, probably do it and make it so annoying telling you exactly how he did it with old folk, and to be like, yeah, we know you like.
I mean, another director that I kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole was Joseph Losey. I had bought a Studio Canal DVD set, and then of course Studio Canal Vintage Classics released a bunch of his films in Blu-ray, which was amazing. My favourite one's probably Mr. Klein, but they also released The Servant on 4K, and The Go-Between, which is probably my second favourite, because Joseph Losey, I think, is a very interesting guy from doing Hollywood films, being blacklisted, doing films in England under a different name, like Sleeping Tiger with Dirk Bogarde, and then doing European ones, trying to be art house. I mean, personally, I think he's more interesting when he is a bit less trying to be arty. But he was a good kind of discovery to go back and see a chunk of his films.
Yeah, he's a really divisive filmmaker. There's a lot of people seem to have a lot of hate for him.
Because I mean, I remember reading something Richard Lester said he's a very strange guy. It was like it was like one of those people in London. It was a bit off. There was something odd about him. It was like, well, he's dealt with it really, because they were in the same circle. They were just something you did deal with. I mean,
for me,
the funny thing is though, you did your Chabrol season and you complained there's no Blu-rays of Chabrol, and then as soon as you said that, we started releasing Chabrol, and I was like, I guess someone I was trying to prove you wrong.
Yeah, I maybe need to do a sales series going through these films one more time.
And just say why is there not. I'm amazed you haven't done that yet, to be honest.
I know, so am I, to be honest.
But then again, I'm amazed I haven't done Buñuel yet, and because it's like one of those ones that's like intimidating to you.
But Joseph Losey, his stuff is really good, and it's especially Mr. Klein. It's really good to get that on a Blu-ray because it looks really good. It has that look of a Melville film.
Yeah, I've been kind of hopeless doing series of stuff this year. I keep on planning to do them, and I've just been absolutely useless at them. It's like my brain hasn't been at it at all. So.
Yeah, I'm only 2 into Jodorowsky, and I haven't even started the Kurosawa one that I announced yet.
Yeah,
I'll do that next year.
We're all guilty of that.
Yeah, but I kind of get sidetracked into a lot of Asian films that I hadn't seen, and that kind of just put me off, put me into that era, like Toyota stuff and a bunch of other stuff. A lot of Johnny To things as well. When Johnny To has been another big discovery for me this year. Some of the stuff's been amazing, like the election series and Excelled, and it's just been like one thing after another with him, just how Throwdown, just how good a lot of his films are. So he's been a major thing for me this year, because it's been like, I think I've seen a lot of his really good films. I mean, I think there's some weaker ones I haven't seen, but those really good ones are so good. It's like, well, if you have these in your career, well, that's a justified career. I don't know what else you made.
Yeah, that Asian cinema is obviously a massive rabbit hole, an endless rabbit hole.
I know.
Tell me about which Gemini, the Sugimoto film.
Oh yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. I have to say, like, Sugimoto is a director that I often watch and go, I just don't get it. It's obviously over my head. Obviously, his look at balance and stuff can be very jarring, but Gemini's bloody beautiful.
Yeah.
There's something really touching as well as meaningful and deep about that film, and
Yeah.
kind of blew me away.
I think Tsukamoto is probably my favorite Japanese director at the moment. He was the one that now some directors you get his affection. You're like, yeah, this is one of my directors. There's, him and Sono are basically my directors at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, for me, kind of revisiting some Tsukamoto and seeing some new Tsukamoto, I did actually have to think about, do I prefer Kitano or Tsukamoto? I was that impressed by his stuff. Again, I'd seen Vital like 20 years ago, but seeing it again, Vital just is absolutely vital.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun. It's just amazing.
It's one of those ones I raved to you about it, and I was like, well, hopefully they'll like it a bit, something that don't look bad. And you loved it. It was like, oh, thank God.
But plus what he achieves on the budgets he works with, and obviously acts as well. I mean, even Fires in the Plane, for what he achieved with the budget he had on that, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I can't remember a lot of Tsukamoto films I was watching over last year and this year, and it's like when did I see that? I just know I've been watching lots of them. It's like I can't tell when I saw them, but I know I watched a lot of Johnny To this year and a lot of Toyota this year.
Yeah.
Although I fall on the Toyota train.
Yeah, I know. I mean, who's been on about it for ages, and I was finally kind of giving in and started watching and going, yeah, he was right. Should we tell him he was right, or should we just tease him and say, nah, you were wrong?
I mean, honestly, for me, I think he is below a rung below kind of Kitano and Tsukamoto, but he's still obviously excellent.
Yeah, I mean, Tsukamoto for me is the big one, the more recent times for me, but I can see why Chris said doesn't really get him as much. It's like one of those ones like, yeah, I get that. I understand that. It's just some people, I think some directors you get instinctively and you can't explain why you get the film. It's just like, there's something about them. Because I was always a Cronenberg fan, so I love his films even before I can understand them. There's something about them, and I just got like, and subconsciously there was just there.
That's why you buy these things though, because they're endlessly rewatchable. You appreciate there's something about it, but maybe it doesn't gel the first time or second time or otherwise. But what? Maybe one of the other films is the gateway to that. When you fully get that film, then you can go back and watch it through that lens.
Yeah,
because I think I'm going to be perhaps very slow on the Sono train. Because I haven't actually watched that many, and I've deliberately avoided them just because everybody thinks they're amazing.
Yeah,
I've just deliberately been a contrarian, but
I was that way with Toyota for a year or two. So it's an instinct. Like everyone else says, "Oh, you have to see this." It's like, no, I'm not. I don't. You have to like this.
I mean, I've only seen Cold Fish, which I thought was good, but I didn't find the characters that engaging. And I do have Love Exposure and a few in the backlog, but I'll get to.
Yeah. I've only seen two of his as well. I've seen Whispering Star, which is, again, that kind of good, and then Himizu, which I just think is incredible.
Yeah, Himizu is really good. Except it pretty much made my favorite film of this year, which is Red Post and Nesher Street.
That's right.
It's so good. It's probably if it's not my favorite, it's definitely top 3 of the year because it was just amazing, and it hasn't been released here at all. And it's like that's a crime. Because I mean, I like Prison of the Ghostland, but Prison of the Ghostland is nowhere near as good as Red Post Nesher Street. Like Red Post Nesher Street, I would actually call a beautiful film. It's so good. So anyone can see it. Try and see it. It's really something.
Yeah.
Wait, that's £2 and 4K on iTunes and streaming.
Yeah.
And then I can go for it until somebody releases it in a nice.
The amazing thing was they released Sono's Strange Circus on iTunes. I was amazed because it was like, this film was so extreme. I was like, how the hell is this actually on like anything in Britain? Do you think they'd just ban it outright and just say, no, we're not having this? But nope. I now officially own Strange Circus and Ebola Syndrome on iTunes as well, which is crazy.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, one of the other films that blew me away was Orlando. That's from 1992, and I remember it coming out at the time, but watching it for the first time last year, and again, I went on a Tilda Swinton bit of a deep dive as well.
Yeah.
But Orlando just absolutely blew me away.
I can be superior
loves
here because I
nothing.
actually saw it in the cinema. I actually went and saw it because it looked like my kind of film. So I'm
Yeah.
better than you. I'm better than you.
Yes.
I don't know what to think of Orlando. I
just
watched
blew me
it, and I think it's really good, but I don't know. It's so odd.
Yeah.
It's such an odd movie that I think it took me about half the movie to actually realize what was actually going to happen or what was going on.
Yeah.
Or that it was even a passage of time. Knew nothing about that really, other than just taking it scene by scene, and it was like, oh right, okay.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Somerville is an angel at the end
The
singing.
angel, yeah.
It's just so bizarre, but it just somehow it's quite moving. I don't know. It's just like
Yeah.
And
it's
it is
one of those
tied by,
films that just clicked with me immediately.
it's tied together by the fact Tilda Swinton's just incredible.
Yeah.
And like, there's no doubt about that. So, but yeah, an odd movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't mean bad or otherwise. It just
Yeah.
means it's something really interesting in there, and again, worth watching multiple times because of that.
Yeah. It's just right in my wheelhouse. So.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some films like that are just you get it, you don't. I mean, you were talking earlier about how much you love Dune. I just couldn't get into Dune at all, even though I respect the director a lot. I liked a lot of the films.
Yeah.
I mean, it made Arrival, which I think is one of the best sci-fi movies of the last 10, 15 years. It's so good. But Dune, I just could not get into. And it's like, well, some people just cannot get into. So there's something about them that you're not going to get it. And it's just, that's the way it is. No matter what, how much hard you try.
Yeah, but that's what makes cinema so great. It's like 5 different people can have 5 different reactions.
Yeah, indeed. BFI, I buy a lot of BFI stuff, and their input can be a bit up and down, I suppose, fair to say, because they do have this slant towards a lot of British cinema, and actually the modern British films that they release tend to be very, very good. Mughal Mowgli was okay, I think. But Afterlove, which I talked about in the Watch This video, I think is incredible. And also County Lines by a novice filmmaker called Henry Blake. So County Lines tells a story of young children who bring drugs across county lines, etc. It's a real hard watch. It's really violent in places. It's really touching. It's really thick. But like most of these things, and I'd say this for actually nearly all releases, you talked about the things change earlier on. See, when you get somebody that was intimately involved in the filmmaking process to speak in camera in an interview, that's like gold dust. So when you get like the filmmaker, you get the cast all sitting on those Zoom calls, which seem to be the norm a lot this year, and they talk for half an hour about the making of the movie and the genesis of the movie and all that kind of stuff, you just go, Jesus, this is really, taking the film from me to another level, because it's that thing where you would have went to a Q&A screen for the chance to hear the director speak to it, and that would have ended out. But you get these all on the discs now, and it's just it's something else. But they were really, really great releases for me this year. Loved all of those. And then Friendship's Death, I know you'd seen as well. It's a real odd movie as well.
Yeah.
Is that the Tilda Swinton one?
With Bill Patterson.
Bill Patterson.
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet. I've got it, but I haven't watched it.
She's an alien who was supposed to land in Washington, but lands in the Middle East
during the conflict. And again, a hard film to recommend to people. I don't. It's very much a two-handed stage play, filmed, but somehow is amazing. Bill Patterson's amazing. Tilda Swinton's amazing. Like, how could it not be great? And it's not that long. Probably
my favourite BFI release is I Start Counting, with David Green this year with Jenny Agutter. It's just a lovely little film that again was just forgotten about, never heard of, and then BFI have restored it. There's a ton of great extras on it. Just a wonderful little coming of age / serial killer / Alice in Wonderland / it's just an odd little film, but just wonderful.
One of the big ones for me was An Elephant Sitting Still, which was just
bought it, still haven't watched it.
It's amazing. It's so good. But the funny thing was, it was one of those films. It's like you think, it's 4 hours. This is going to be hard, and it's like, no, it's easy to sit through. It's so easy. It's very human. You understand all the characters, even the ones that are not sympathetic. And it's just like, and it's such tragedy. The guy's dead. The guy made it because it was so clearly they knew what the film was, and it was just it was just wonderful. And it was that was one of the ones that just blew me away because I expected it to be good because I heard it was good, but now when you actually see it, it's like, wow, this is just really something. This is a really personal film, and all the characters are understandable, and even people that are doing things that are horrible, it's understandable why they're doing them. You can see it allows you to see their weaknesses, and they're aware of their weaknesses, but they still can't quite get beyond it. And it's like, it's just a difficulty of, life, really.
Yeah.
But to me, that's like the alchemy of cinema. If you're saying it's a 4-hour film, and again, we've seen the human condition, and you get some long films and they just like fly by, and then you get a 90-minute film that is just an absolute trek. It's just an absolute drudge. It's just that alchemy of how things work, and sometimes
you can even find
work.
that. You can even find that within a film. So if I pick something, I don't know if a couple of us have seen that, like V. Yeah. Right, the first 20 minutes of V are a bit trudgery and what the hell's going on here, and then the film is over because the last 50 minutes of it is just utterly insane and just can't take your eyes off it.
But that's got two different directors that fired the first ones after the first 20 minutes. But funny enough, I liked the first 20 minutes of V. I was going to bring it up.
It is slow.
Yeah, it's a different pace.
Yeah,
and then
indeed.
Suddenly becomes something different. But but yeah, you can tell a different director instantly come involved. It's like, no, we're not doing this. We're doing this other thing. We're going to have some fun with this. And we're going to beat this guy up. And it's pretty much, okay, this is what Evil Dead was before Evil Dead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder if Sam Raimi saw V.
Yeah, well, either we saw it or when either saw it before Evil Dead or we saw it after. Thinking, hey, this guy's the same as me.
Yeah, I get real strong Del Toro vibes off V as well. There's a lot of that kind of comes through in the visualness of the whole world that he creates there. It's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, another one I really loved this year was Goodbye Dragon Inn, which I finally saw, and
I haven't watched that.
It's wonderful. It's just
I have no reason for not watching that because, like, I've seen Dragon Inn, and I've heard a lot of people talk about Goodbye Dragon Inn.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones, and it's a short film, and it feels even shorter. It does not feel a very long film at all. It was just wonderful. But if you see what it's about cinema closing down of showing Dragon Inn, and that's it. And there's a lot of wandering shots. You think, oh, this must be boring. It's like, no, it's not. It's the way it's done. It's beautiful. And you just have to see it because it is just wonderful. So I've been catching a lot of these films I've always meant to watch this year. And it's just like recommendations and things that were being released like obscurely and just picking them up and trying them out. So that's been most of my year. Another one was Chaser. Chaser was another one. It was amazing. It was been around for years. I should have watched it years ago, and I finally got to watch it this year. And it was like, wow, this is stunning. So a lot of my stuff has been Asian films. A lot of the stuff I've really watched this year. It's just been like one thing when you start to see like, oh, there's this film, there's this film, there's this film, this film, and it's like suddenly into kind of habit of watching those films more than else.
Well, that's the beauty of this community. It is recommendations.
Yeah.
So we all know for second run recommendations, Chris has got her back, and certainly for Beauty and the Beast or The Virgin and the Beast.
I still need to watch that.
That was first, Chris, and it is amazing. I think that was in my top 10 films that I've watched this year for the first time. Again, like I said when I did the review, the Jean Cocteau version's always been my favourite version, but that's actually giving it competition because it's just so amazing. I knew within the first 5 minutes that I was going to love it. It's just weird when you sometimes get a film like that, you just know.
It's interesting because it's such a well-known tale.
Yeah,
and for somebody to take it in such a different direction or even create a different feel or vibe about it, because it's definitely that gothic fairy tale, rather than the princess and that kind of stuff. So yeah, Virgin and the Witch
just blew me away.
Yeah. I'll give you another one though. Let's talk about The Lighthouse by Maria Sakian. Anybody seen The Lighthouse yet? Because again, I've not seen anybody talk about it.
I've seen another Lighthouse. I've seen the
Eggers one.
Yeah,
which is a good movie. It's a very good movie.
That's really good, yeah.
It's really, really good. This Lighthouse is like a greatest hits of Russian cinema. So if you think of a film that looks as good as Stalker, it's as bleak as Come and See in some ways, and has the spirituality of The Ascent, you kind of get The Lighthouse, which is the story of a girl who's moved away from a small village to Moscow, a small village in Armenia to Moscow, and she hears about the war in Armenia and the borders, and goes back to rescue her grandparents that she grew up with. And when she gets there, she realizes she can't leave because she just can't physically leave. And then she also starts to explore about, what she loved about the place and what was there and what she was missing and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of amazing. Like, it's honestly properly amazing. When this eventually gets like a Criterion list or something, you're just going to hear people talking about The Lighthouse all day.
I might just have to add that to a list somewhere.
Yeah, it's spectacularly good. I just could not get over watching it. Just kind of how it was this mismatch of all of those great themes and bits of Russian cinema that you've seen.
It's that second run.
It's second run. It is. It came out, I think, October-ish, sometime around that.
Yeah, because I always find the second run one. There's like, if I haven't heard of it, as soon as you get an arrow sale and there's some second run ones, you're like, I'll give that one a shot. Yeah. And that's half a basket usually.
That's the nice thing about Arrow's second run, third window. Even if you don't pick them up immediately, there's a sale coming around soon, which will give you the opportunity to explore it and then dig into it.
Yeah, because I've just bought Funuki Show Me Some Love.
Yeah.
Which I've heard is really good. And it's like, I just heard how good it was. It's like, okay, I'll give it a shot. £10, I'll take £10 to buy it.
It's a cool movie.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Sometimes you think, well, why not? I mean, there's even stuff in the third window I'll buy, like when I'm in streaming, which when I go in arrow sales for like a few pound, and it's like, I've never heard of this, I'll give it a shot.
Their rental sales especially are ones where I just queue them up. If they're 99p rental for a month, I'll buy 6 of them or £6. I might only watch 4 of them. I might only get around to 4 of them, but again, that was a good use of my time.
Yeah, that's the thing. Those are ones that's like, sometimes it's just like, okay, it's £3. If I buy like 5 of them, it's £15. Yeah. It's basically a Blu-ray.
Still less than a Criterion. Yeah.
So, I really did cave though with Last Samurai. I could get into the day of the release. I was like, I have to buy it. I just have to buy it.
I think certainly I'm being better about buying stuff full price, stuff that I know isn't going to go out of stock. I'm just going to wait for sales rather than buying arrows at full price at $17.99 when eventually they'll be £7.50. Just try and be more disciplined like that this year, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the same. Just buy less and just focus on what you really want. Now, stuff like I could fancy one now. It's like, do you really need it? No, don't bother. Just get the one you're actually going to watch.
I mean, on you go.
I was going to say that for me, Arrow have just become watch and streaming and buy the box set kind of. Yeah. Single releases, watch and stream and buy the box set, because the box sets, I love the journey of the box set, even though I very rarely bloody finish any of them. I do love the story from start to finish, especially if they've got similar people and themes running through it.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because the Yokai box set, I bought it and then it was like, okay, the actual stories are kind of like the Imagine stories. I watched that really recently, so I've actually put it all. Yeah. I watched it in the year because it's like I've watched these too close. I'd rather just. I really enjoy that kind of story, but I'd rather just have a little more of a break and then I'll watch it and with that break, and so it doesn't feel like it's too close to each other, really. Because a lot of like those kind of movies are kind of the same movie with variations.
Yeah. And a couple of Arrow releases. Obviously, Nazarin did a video on Blind Beast, but Snake Girl and the White-Haired Witch are both like really interesting.
Yeah, I need to watch that one. I've got it. I haven't watched it, but I've also got
got one of those lovely slipcovers.
I've also got the two
soft touch.
Yeah. I've got the Black Car films, and I've got Giant and Toys. Over those ones.
That's Toys. I think's great. I like Giant Toys. Those Masamura films that I've seen, Arizuma as well. I think they were real finds this year. They should have been a box set, but it was kind of nice that they were spaced out. Throughout the year.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, like they're releasing just strange Japanese films you wouldn't catch otherwise. The last few years have been great because you was picking up stuff. It's like, I've never heard of this, but it looks really fascinating.
Yeah.
Like The Joy of Torture and something like that. It's like you never think of buying these, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to buy it.
So again, for me, it's fine if they're doing 4K Argentos, if that means
Mhm.
they can also release those Japanese films. So that's,
Yeah.
to me, that's a fine balance.
Yeah. I should definitely bring up one thing that was dubious at best. I've done a video on. It involves a cow.
Yes,
A Lonely Cow Weeps at Dawn
haven't
was
seen that.
quite a strange film.
I did have a ton of Sacrament films in that.
Yeah, I know.
basket
It's just
and
so
then I changed
weird.
my mind.
Yeah, this was oh my god! I started a stream, one of the streams of his streams, and ended up being a joke, and ended up being someone found a release of it, official release of it, and ended up buying it and then watching it and reviewing it, and it was like, this is the strangest film ever. This is the strangest line of things ever, because it was moving at some points, then it became this CD film, and it went back to moving. It was like the weirdest film ever made. It's kind of delight to review it because it was, how do you explain this and not look like a total pervert? It's definitely the most unique experience I've had this year. I don't think I'm going to top it this next year.
If we're talking about strangeness, then I suppose we should go back to second run in Per Portobello. Again, what is it? Something Before Bach and
Silence
Before Bach.
Before Bach.
That was a weird double bill. There's another film on that, which is like 10 minutes. But again, it somehow works. And then obviously Vampire Kravchuk, which I think I did watch last year. And again, that was thanks to Chris as well, is one of the most unique viewing experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, I bought that during sales and it's just arrived. I haven't watched it yet, but
there's a definitely what the fuck is that coming about Vampire Kravchuk, because it's one of those things. I mean, you always put it best, Ronan, when you said, like, I don't even know if it's the worst film I've ever seen or the best, one of the best films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's utterly, mind blowing.
The funny thing is, I've got Count Dracula's film that was being shot at the same time. So I'm thinking I might watch both of them, and then that might be a better video because I've got the actual film that was
that's
shooting.
a good double bill. Yeah,
it's either one of the most baffling films you'll ever see or one of the best adaptations of Dracula you'll ever see. And about filmmaking. And the magic of filmmaking.
The best part about it is I'm not sure he knows the difference either. I mean, that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah. The thing is, it's just second run. Them in Third Window have such a good rep with me at the moment. There are many great films I've released that I've well loved. It's like, I'll give it a chance if they're releasing it. Like, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, if they're releasing it as quality, I may not like it, but it's a definitely quality film. Like, they've got my goodwill for how many good films I've released. Like, I'm willing to spend money.
Yeah, and Silence Before Bach was the same. That's kind of a documentary, quasi-exploration of the power of music. And again, it does work. You can't really explain why.
What's sort of like those last two Fu Manchu films?
Similar, but different.
I couldn't resist, sorry.
That set's now sold out, and it can't be for the quality of the films. So.
Yeah.
So somebody did say, actually, of those Indicator, I think Indicator have like 1,000 people that buy everything that they have sight unseen. So of their 3,000 run, and I'm one, definitely. I'm part of the problem there, but
I'm not.
But that's a lot. That's a third of them they're selling before anything happens.
Yeah, I buy some ones, but I don't buy them all because there's certain films I'm just not interested in. It's like, well, I don't need the I don't need the full line. I
mean, I obviously love Indicator, but I will say the film noir sets, I think they maybe have been rushing them out, because for me, the quality of the film noir sets have kind of went like that. The box set 4, I think there's only really one film that is really a standout, whereas the first couple of box sets were like really, really good. But they pretty much rushed out 4 volumes within, I don't know, 8 months or something.
Because
that's just my opinion, obviously.
The Hammer ones are spread out a lot more. And I think that even though they did a couple of films that weren't that good, that generally they actually put a lot of effort into those ones, and I think they were worth your money, because I really like a lot of Hammer stuff, and you get strange things you'd never seen before that were actually really great. Like Yesterday's Enemy was amazing.
Yeah, Yesterday's Enemy was a really amazing surprise.
Yeah. I like that one quite a lot as well. That was pretty great.
Yeah,
the volume 6 for Hammer was really good.
Yeah, I mean, even the weaker ones, it's like it's interesting. That's so interesting they've released that film. So I'm fine with them releasing it. It's that one of those things like, yeah, they're still going through some of these interesting odd Hammer films because they made so many odd ones. It's like, but yeah,
even the down month of Daddy afternoon films, you know, the Grey Lady Down, the Hellfighters, the MacArthur, the Midway, which is supposedly a down month. I devoured all 4 of those films, one after the other one.
I've only watched Grey Lady Down, but the 40-minute documentary on Grey Lady Down with the critic who used to actually work for the Navy and actually used to work as arguably the best extra of the whole year for me.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. I wonder at what point they discovered that was the thing.
Yeah.
You know, what part about the process? Just do that. Would you come on and do that?
Yeah.
But
what was in film noir?
He does. The interesting thing about that was, especially something like Midway or MacArthur, these films that obviously had enormous budgets at the time, right? And obviously a lot of money spent on obviously going for Oscars, etc., are now reduced to Saturday or Sunday afternoon, like kind of Lifetime movie fodder, you know, because that money doesn't always translate to being the huge success that it was.
Yeah, well, the thing is, at least Midway is better than New Midway, which was a disastrously awful film. That was like that was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. That new one. It was stunningly awful.
I think people just need to leave that period of American history out because there just really has not been very many successes in a salary. Yeah, exactly.
They haven't done many good films recently. They don't understand the time period, which is the problem. So it's just like, why bother? You don't get it. Everyone who understands the time period is dead. And all these actors look the wrong body type, the wrong psychology for that time period. They don't exude that quality.
Plus, at the time, some of those actors did actually have some service.
Yeah.
Or at least
that's true.
Were around when it was happening. So
what was bizarre about the Midway film that was released is like the last half an hour is stock footage from the war. So they filmed the whole thing before, and then all of the action sequences, the little bit of green screen, but it's nearly all like the planes taking off and the dog fights in the air and stuff. And it's like, what the hell happened? Did they just run out of money?
Yeah,
or did they, you know, or was this
a
choice at the start to say, let's just do that? It seems like it was a choice, which seems even more bizarre.
Yeah.
But, cool.
I'm just looking at one of the films I watched this year, one of the big series of films I watched this year was the Roger Corman Poe films. I watched all of them all the way through, and it was like, that was great fun. That was so much fun. Even the weaker ones were good, and it was like and he's so many good actors in them. So I mean, you get no dodgy performance by a younger actor, but usually they were. You had Vincent Price, you had Peter Lorre, you had Basil Rathbone, and some really creepy ones. There was a Trilogy of Terror, which was excellent. It was one of the ones that's underrated because no one thinks, it's an anthology, who cares? It's like, no, this stuff's really good. And Comedy of Terrors was hilarious, and no one ever went to see it because no one understood the comedy part of it.
Again, it's another example of creating great stuff with very little.
Yeah, it's quite funny seeing Jack Nicholson in The Raven.
The Raven, yeah.
Yeah, because it's one of the other performances, and you can see moments of Jack Nicholson, what he's going to become, and other times he's really stiff. But it's the little bits, like, there's some scenes you can, whenever he's with Peter Lorre, he's terrific because he's working with somebody he can work with. You can see little bits of, like, things that he was going to do and things he was going to probably never do again because it's like, well, I'm not good at that. I'll avoid that.
Yeah, occasionally you see the twinkle in his eye.
Yeah, it's like you really see it. It's really schizo performance because there's some stuff that it's really funny and other stuff that it's obviously like, I'm not a romantic lead. I'm not doing that ever again. I don't like doing that. So, but they were wonderful. And there was so many really good ideas, like the whole idea of people handing down curses to each other for genetics and things. And it's just like, what strange things. And there was a strange case of Charles Vladimir, which was creepy as hell. But a guy being hypnotized when he dies and he's coming back into ghost, and it's like, oh, that's just so creepy the way they did it.
Yeah.
So that was wonderful to watch. I had a ball. And I even watched Premature Burial with Milan as well. And
I love Premature Burial because I love Milan. So.
Yeah. And it was like, even this one, it was like really creepy. It's like, yeah, he's probably better than this than Vincent Price would have been. But I'd love to see the Vincent Price version too. But it was just different.
Yeah.
But it was like a whole totally different perspective in that kind of character.
Yeah, Ray Milland, the most guilty looking man in history.
Yeah, play a man who's scared of death.
He's always looking like...
Yeah, it's also kind of funny because we watched that and you watched Tumologia, and it's like Premature Burial and Tumologia feels like almost the same film. In lots of ways, it feels very similar. It's almost like we made this with one actor, let's remake a different actor with a different plot, but it's still pretty much the same feel.
But one of my favourite releases from a label that I'm trying not to buy just because they are really expensive is from Imprint.
Oh yeah,
and it was The Gambler, which was another one of those Grail films to get a Blu-ray, and I'm so glad it did. It's arguably James Caan's best performance, and I just love The Gambler so much. I haven't seen the Mark Wahlberg remake, and I won't be.
Yeah, no, it's like,
but I just
one actor should never be in that story.
Yeah. I also picked up The Dead Zone from Imprint.
Yeah.
They do have the straight story, but I'm hoping that will get picked up by somebody else. And I did cave because of Hoos and get the Gong Li Zhang Shmo set.
Did I?
Which I'm hopefully going to do a series on because that will give me an excuse to actually watch the film. So I'm hopefully going to do a series on it.
I haven't even cracked the scene of it.
I think we can all agree, Hoos, you bastard, just generally for
I caved because it is absolutely beautiful. Yeah. But I'm trying to avoid buying imprints because they are expensive. But I just had to get The Gambler and The Dead Zone.
Yeah, I've had enough of the Shaw Brothers stuff and everything else the last 2 months. It's like I just couldn't, even though I like the look of that one, it's like, I like a lot of these films. I can't afford it. There are limits.
It was stuck in custom sale for a long time for me as well.
Yeah, that's not going to improve much.
No, it's really not. No.
And I did also go stupid and buy the Severin Christopher Lee Eurocrypt box set, which maybe wasn't the best decision. But
because I was watching now, you told me that I was like, God, I'm the most massive Hammer film guy ever. Even I didn't buy that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the Sherlock Holmes one where he plays Sherlock Holmes, but he's actually dubbed with a transatlantic voice, so it's not even Christopher Lee's voice.
That's sacrilege. Which is funny because it's the most famous voice ever. It's
exactly.
The other one that they've just released has just come out is that full car box set, which just looks ridiculous. But of course, a lot of those films have already been released here in some way, shape, or form, so it made it a bit less enticing to go and pick them up. But that is a stunning box set. It has Witchhammer and stuff in it as well. Oh, that'd be so good.
Yeah,
if that's your first exposure
to that. In some of the releases, but then stuff like The Gambler. I just kind of had to get. I mean, maybe one day it'll come out in a UK release or whatever, but it's just one of my favourite films from the 70s.
Right, you should nearly do bets. If The Gambler is going to come out, which label releases it?
Indicator.
You got to think Indicator is the most likely. And let's have a sneaky suspicion for Black Label 101 films as well.
Yeah.
Go on with the cooler.
Yeah, exactly. But also the extras, the extras in the Dead Zone are like, because I did have a German Blu-ray, and the extras in the Imprint Dead Zone are well worth it. I know Scream Factory released Dead Zone as well, which I haven't got. I haven't went completely mad and got that one as well. But
I've been eyeing up Crash, the Cronenberg Crash. Even though I've got the 4K, I've been eyeing up the Criterion because it's like.
Well, I've got the Criterion, the German media book, and the Arrow for Crash, so I can't really talk.
Yeah, no, it's because of the commentary and I've got a bunch of other stuff, and it's like it's totally different extras. It's like I'm really getting tempted. I'm probably going to cave eventually in this one, but I'm trying to resist. I'm trying my best. And some bugger sent me an eBay, sent me an email today saying, "Are you still interested in Crash?" I'm like, yes, I am, you bastard.
Of course I am.
Yeah, I'm only human.
I mean, I pretty much did all my damage with Scream Factory like 2 years ago, but one I did pick up and I did do a video of was the brother who
Yes.
did the Wolf Screen Factory, which is fantastic. The making of are almost better than the actual film. The film itself is obviously a mishmash of like 3 different things, but I've always found it to be a lot of fun. But the actual making of the Jim Henson studio stuff is like an hour just in the Jim Henson studio with the creature design and creature making is just absolutely fantastic.
Oops. So I'm just checking the recording to the last one.
Yeah. Vincent Cassell with another subtle performance.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm meaning to get the Dead Ringers one from Scream Factory. Still haven't got that yet, and
yeah, the Dead Ringers one's rather nice.
Yeah.
Show off.
And Sacrilege. I
I just
also
happen
want.
to have the Scream Factory right next to me.
Yeah.
That was planned.
I wouldn't mind doing the Psycho remake one just to annoy everybody.
I got that one as well. Scream Factory. That's the only Psycho I've got. It was one of those job lot things that I got like 3 years ago.
Right.
I didn't purposely get it. Like,
sure.
Unlike me, I would purposely get it.
Yeah. I just have it to wind Hitchcock fans up.
Things I actually defend it completely to wind them up. I really enjoy winding up Hitchcock fans with that because I'm horrible that way.
It's in colour.
I know. Much better acting. Just see that to annoy them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So So I'm just looking at my list I've made of other stuff that I've seen this year that from a different year. There's Black Sabbath, which I hadn't seen for so long. The Mario Bava one.
Bava one, yeah.
It was so good. It was just so good. It was like I'd forgotten how good was the telephone and the one with Boris Karloff as a vampire who can only talk about his family, how he destroys the family, and it's like, this is so high class horror that has been forgotten about, and it's like just wonderful. I
finally got around to watching The Nightingale on second sight last weekend, which looks really good on the big screen.
How pleasurable an experience was watching The Nightingale on the big screen?
It was pretty awesome.
It is gruesome at parts. Like that scene is pretty hard going.
Because you think, is that going to go that way? And it's like, yeah, it actually is.
And a good example of how you really create horror by not necessarily showing it as graphically as you could, but by showing the impact and the reactions of it.
I mean, I would say for me, the villain is a bit too cartoony.
I completely agree. Yeah, I think Sam Claflin's the weakest part in it.
Dialed down a couple of notches, but overall, it was really, really good.
Yeah,
maybe a little long, but really good.
One of the fun things I watched Mad Max yesterday in the big screen, and he actually the first one really improves a lot because now the second half when they're chasing down the family and stuff, and before he goes mad and starts killing them back, it works really well in a bigger screen. Like in video, it's like it doesn't really do much for you. When you see the big screen, the way the camera moves, and thinking the way music works is like, this is way more effective. I can tell you why that's a massive hit because it really does it well, and you lose so much on TV from this sequence because on the big screen you actually sense the impending doom a lot clearer, and it's like it's what you don't see really is what's horrifying. There's like, this is really something because it's like, but it's a big example of what you lose when you see a small screen.
Just in simple terms, you get a much better sense of scale.
Yeah.
So if you do have a film like The Nightingale, for example, which is about geography and about the world, then obviously it just feels better on a bigger screen.
Yeah.
I should say, like I watched Raw as well this year, which was the second set release. Yeah. God, Raw. There's a film that I did not expect to like at all.
See, I'm gonna have to rewatch it. I mean, I thought it was good, but I wasn't, because I know Dion. I think he absolutely raved about it as well. I thought it was good, but again, I don't think the characters were that engaging. and that was kind of a barrier for me. But again,
Yeah.
I need to rewatch it again.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I've got it. I have not watched it. So one of those I'm going to put it off. It's like
it's a good film. It's a good.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's a good film.
And another thing is, I've been dreading it because the subject matter looks pretty intense. So it's like,
well, that was for me.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll watch it when I'm in the right mood for it.
Classic. I bought it thinking I'm really going to hate this. You know, it's the hate buy, and then watching it, I got halfway through it, and I went, I mean, this is such a well-made movie to start off with.
Yeah.
You know, it's just there's real craft, there's real talent here, and then I actually turned out, I mean, hard to watch in some places, but I think it's completely worth it in the end.
I mean, I'll certainly watch Titan, which I haven't seen yet.
Yeah,
because that I think sounds more up my alley, perhaps. But
yeah.
What missing
but Raw is a good film. Maybe just I need to watch it.
I've got so many of those other ones still to watch now. I have to say, I've still to watch Lake Mungo, and I've got to watch the Babadook actually.
Yeah,
they're just sitting there.
Yeah, there's always films you're meaning to watch. Like I finally went to watch the Sit Mod. I put it off for a year.
Oh yeah,
I haven't watched that.
It's really good. It's really good, but it's pretty intense. So
I pretty much would say about St. Maud what Ronin just said about Raw there. I mean, I like it. It's good. I didn't engage with the characters probably in the way that I probably could have, but I can see why people absolutely love that film.
Yeah. I really liked it. It was very intense, though, because it was just this.
Yeah, it was.
But I think if you engage too much with the character, you're not meant to totally engage with her because she is
she's a psychopath.
Yeah,
well,
she's a lot of problems.
Yeah.
It's like you never identify too much with her. It probably means you need a psychiatrist.
That's probably true. And similarly with some of the characters in Raw, I think that's probably true as well.
Yeah, it's just some characters you probably should not engage with too much.
Yeah,
but I think Censor was much easier to take than St. Maud, because even though the character had problems, Censor, I thought it was easier to identify with, even though she's a lot of problems, because she was less in your face as having a problem to start with, and it was a bit more cartoony in a way. It was more genre based than St. Maud was.
I think I'll pick that up in second sight. Censor.
Yeah, Censor's good.
I mean, a film that I watched on Criterion that shouldn't really be in my wheelhouse, but I absolutely loved it, is Now Voyager with Bette Davis, which is a women's picture, which I should have absolutely hated, but I absolutely loved it. It's like a 5-star film. It's so good, apart from the annoying melodramatic music, but that's a minor annoyance, but it's not so even good.
It's over the top, the music, rather than necessarily the style of it. It's overbearing in some parts, but I agree, that film's one of the greatest films I've ever seen.
Shouldn't have liked that at all. But
be a big softie, ultimately.
Yeah, it must be, because it's just.
I do like a bit of melodrama.
I like it, but it just was absolutely amazing.
I'll give you another Criterion film that I'm pretty sure nobody's seen. Company, the original cast recording. Yeah,
I haven't seen that because again, it doesn't sound like I would like it, but
it's bizarre. So it's not even a recording of the stage play; it's a recording of them doing the soundtrack for the stage play with Stephen Sondheim and other producers, etc., and all the people in it. I can't tell you how brilliant a piece of filmmaking that is. It's just unbelievable. In fact, there was even a part of it that he'd run out of film because he only had so much film, to make the thing with, and he stopped recording, and he nearly missed the best part of the whole documentary, which is one of the characters being so drunk progressively throughout the day that they lost the plot a little bit. And they were basically halfway at the studio, packing up, and he says, no, turn around, find some more film, we'll re-record over something or do something to make sure we get this. And it's honestly, if you're a fan of musical theatre, which I am, very much so maybe it doesn't work as well if you don't have the affinity for it. And I don't know the play. I think that's the bit that really surprised me. I don't know the songs, although I certainly did by the end of it. But there's real drama in that, and especially to seeing somebody like Stephen Sondheim work.
Yeah.
Somebody just doing that somebody that's that good a performer, and I'm watching it for real, not just as a dramatization. It was phenomenal. It's one of the best things I've seen all year.
Maybe Criterion does know what they're doing.
Yeah, there's a good Criterion one, Burrows.
Yeah.
That's a really good one as well, which you'd think, it's based on footage they found years ago and they didn't even put together, and it's like, well, this is really good. I think Jim Jarmusch was the sound guy in the original material.
Yeah.
And it was like,
He's such an interesting character, William Burroughs. Like he's another real oddity of a person.
Yeah, I've read quite a lot of his books. They're really good. They're
Right.
very. You need to really pay attention. He's doing a lot, but it's kind of it is worth the time. But I can see why most people can't read his books.
But it's just, I thought Criterion, like they released Throwdown literally months after Eureka had done a Masters of Cinema and Throwdown. So I think they are just going, people will buy it because it's Criterion, even though there's a really nice boutique label released literally months ago. So
maybe they scheduled it already and they didn't know.
Yeah.
It might done, but Throwdown was only in America, and obviously Eureka was here, so it was a different territory.
Yeah.
To be fair. But a lot of people did discover it for the first time, and see that Throwdown was a great movie. A martial arts movie about judo. What?
Yeah, in the streets.
In the streets, indeed.
Yeah.
Maybe
I should say the Cinematic Vengeance is a really good box set, since I brought it up earlier.
Cool.
I should say I'm halfway through them now. I'm really the Bronzeman films are lots of fun, even though one of them is so bizarrely edited because there's lots of bits from other films in it. That's wonderful. But the creme de la creme is the Seven Grand Masters so far.
It's the first one, is it? That's the first one on the set.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's the best one I've seen so far on set because it's like 4 fight scenes in the first 15 minutes of the film. It's like it just is okay. This is what we're going to be doing, and then it becomes this other story that's connected to the main story, and everything develops in interesting way. And it's like this is really, really enjoyable. I watched one a couple of days ago, which wasn't as good, but it still had a lot of fun to it. The 36 daily styles, but there's lots of, even the weakest ones are really enjoyable, even because of there may be some care, even though they're essentially schlock kung fu movies. It's like they still tried. But it's definitely been a very enjoyable thing. It set me up really nicely for the Shaw Brothers box set. That's what I'm doing for Christmas.
The kung fu movie that I picked out because I thought there's been a lot of them is the Young Master, the Jackie Chan's second directed film with the Golden Harvest. And the reason I picked it is because the story's not the same as every other kung fu movie. There is a tendency in nearly every kung movie to have the same story, the hero's journey, the boy that finds the secret text with different moves, that kind of stuff. And this one is at least different. In the fact that it's a very original story about it, but actually the release itself, I don't know about yourselves, but the releases that have 4 cuts, of the movie, and they say it's a big thing. I often kind of go I don't care. I'm gonna watch one cut of the main cut, and then possibly if I watch it back with a commentary, I'll watch another cut. This is 4 cuts, right? Or 3 cuts, I think it is. To talk about the 4th. But they actually have an extra which explains the differences and why the differences are significant. And if you're into, the process of editing or why editing is important, it's pretty much in this release. And even some of the editing mistakes that they made in trying to make so many changes back and forward, they missed some things. There's some continuity errors that were still made. And I think that is what makes that release pretty cool, alongside the booklet, which has the history of cinematic history of Jackie Chan and stuff like that. It's a very big book, etc. That was a pretty great release.
So that's one of the things Indicator do really well. They'll compare the different cuts.
Right.
And also when they do their supplementaries on what the censors did and the choices the censors wanted. They're fascinating as well.
Yeah, the 18 Bronzeman film and the Cinematic Vengeance one has that. It's not a documentary; it's a commentary. It goes through the one that's been cut up a lot, and cause you can actually watch the original cut as well. But it also tells you in the commentary why was this done, why did they change it in this market, and you get the whole thing of why it's so different in this film compared to the other film, and it's really interesting. I don't watch tons of commentaries now, but I watched that one because it was really cool. Because it was there's a lot to actually talk about rather than just being now this happens, now this happens. I always look forward to how there was a Japanese film or something. There was Tony Raines doing one because he can explain so much about the background of everything, and you actually get an idea of who this person was and why they made this film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really funny. You talk about the soundtrack choices, it changes from one for the Young Master. The soundtrack for the main release, the Hong Kong cut, is Holst's Mars with a little bit of Jupiter.
Yeah.
Right, is the soundtrack. But then for the Japanese release, they had this like funky through the whole thing instead. So
Oh yeah,
the tone and theme.
the 36 Deadly Styles at one moment of the Pink Panther theme in it during one of the comedy villains writing a letter, so they have to try and make it interesting. So they put in the Pink Panther theme. It's brilliant. It's just like
that is so good.
That's really, are they doing this? Yes, they're doing this. Okay, that's cool. I'll go along with this.
That should push up since film of the year list.
I know I was gonna say, and in the Japanese release, and only the Japanese release, they have Jackie Chan singing the end theme in English.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Japanese releases, they're such a different culture, so they expect different things. So they always end up doing weird stuff for Japanese releases. It's just like the culture's strange, have to adjust certain things. So
Jackie Chan's English accent isn't that great today. Never mind in 1980, you know.
Yeah. So
God. So that was those. The other one that I'll probably point out in the similar theme is Choi Hark. Right? Did anybody watch any of his releases? There was Full Search, there was The Wild Search, etc. Full Alert, all those kind of ones. Time and Tide is bizarre. So it starts with a barman getting a lesbian woman pregnant. Then he becomes a bodyguard, where he saves somebody dying, where he meets somebody, and then it becomes into basically that whole thing sets up what is a chase sequence about some stolen money for about 50 minutes at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
These things are only minorly related.
I watched Zoo Warriors this year, which is another weird one. There's like kind of plots that don't quite relate, but they work fine. It's like I've never ball. I don't need to understand any of this. As long as
he just needs stuff happening. There's threads that need to be going here and here, and let's create some.
And I watched Once Upon a Time in China series this year, which is a bit more manageable. They've actually remembered to have a plot with those ones. They're more normal. Like someone said, actually have something, even though there's a lot of eccentric side angles, they actually do have kind of a plot, and they're wonderful. They were so much fun. What was the other one that was really weird? I saw the Asia. There was one, I can't remember what it was called. That's gone. It's gone. But yeah, I know what you're talking about with his stuff. It's like some of the stuff strange. He's like, he's got 5 movies he wants to make, and he's only getting budget money for one, so we'll make them all in one film.
Just them all together.
I mean, the thing is, him and John Woo used to work together, and then they fell out. I think it's because John Woo just wanted to make his film and not 5 different films in one.
Yeah. So lots of long way they continue, because I think there's enough space for weird and wacky, wonderful Asian nonsense on multiple labels.
Oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. Some films I've been watching, I got recommended by Eric, was about the about these stories, the ghost stories set in Memento Mori and things like that. Was set in schools for, they're all like teenage girls, really, basically. They're learning about life and things like that. And I've watched 2 of them so far. The first 2 in Whispering Corridors and Memento Mori, and they're brilliant. They're so well done. The characters are so good. So I've got 1 or 2 other films to watch still, but they're really enjoyable. But that was a nice surprise, because they did something that they did in America, and it was tawdry trash ever. They did it properly in Korea, and it was like, this is how you do this story.
Well, speaking of a film that if it was done in America would be terrible, but it's from Finland, part of the anti-worlds is Dogs Don't Wear Pants, which is just quite a moving story, even though it's about a surgeon who loses his wife in a drowning accident, and then his only way of dealing with the grief
Why is that suddenly
been,
funny? I don't know why. When you said that, it just made me laugh. I think it was funny.
the only way he can work through his grief is going to a dominatrix who suffocates him, and at the point of like suffocating, he sees visions of his wife. It's got amateur dentistry, which might put people off, but it's just absolutely beautiful. And again, it's a perfect example. If it was done in America, it would just be sleazy and trashy, but it's actually quite moving, even though it's about
That's never
finding
getting
yourself
funded in
after
America.
grief.
Yeah.
Never getting funded in America.
Hey, hire Paul Schrader. He'll do it.
Yeah.
But
So
you have
it's
to have
not as
God in there somewhere.
Yeah, so it's not as extreme as it sounds, even though obviously there would be scenes where people would kind of be uncomfortable, but it's actually quite moving, even though it really shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's probably the only anti-worlds title I could actually recommend.
Yeah, well, he's done Cat People. It sounds like it could be a variation of Cat People. This,
It's a good question about Dante. Anti-World's another label I wish I could have a reason to stop buying them, other than I only get very middling enjoyment out of.
Yeah, I think in about 2026, when I get rid of my backlog, I'll probably get rid of half of them. But
yeah, I have enjoyed most of them, just apart from Relaxer. Relaxer's the only one I just can't have.
Yeah, Relax on Holiday, I just really didn't like at all. So.
Yeah.
But Dogs Wear Pants, I would highly recommend checking out.
Yeah, you tell these two are purists for the Indicator stuff. Like nobody else is buying these films, probably you two. Everybody else is like, "Yeah, we're fine."
But then you look at the next two releases that are coming up, and I go,
exactly.
Yeah, but they're interesting sounding. You know what I mean? The films probably are not very good, but there's a premise there that's like the guy loses his favorite hammer. I think it's Patrick.
Yeah, and a nudist colony.
Yeah.
Loses his favorite hammer.
I mean, there's the premise of it. I mean, how could I not want to watch that?
So as you can see, I think we've all watched lots of different and challenging and interesting and fun films.
Yeah, I watched Showgirls too. I watched Showgirls as well, just to tie that into what you said.
There you go.
So did I.
Odd person.
Yeah.
The Showgirls doesn't sum up 2021. I don't know what does.
Cats.
Yeah.
People are rationally angry.
That seems to be,
yeah. Just like how many videos I've made about cats. And not all of them are my fault.
No.
Anyway, I'll let you back to what you're saying. There you go.
No, I was just going to say it's been a varied year. And again, physical media releases have been wonderful this year. They keep on coming. Just when you think, oh yeah, there's nothing that really suits me, then you get an announcement that you immediately have to pre-order.
Yeah.
So, but do we have any plans for 2022 specifically, or for your channels?
Yeah. No, I've already pre-ordered stuff for 2022. I mean, that's my thing.
Exactly.
I mean, I've already Party in the Yes and Dillinger and Shock pre-ordered. But
I've pre-order for 2022 so far.
Yeah.
It's
just a
Park Indicator, yeah.
It's true. Just a few so far. But I have no plans beyond just doing my channel and seeing how it goes. Like I've stopped having plans. I just try and do things. Like I have to do the Herzog collection. I've been really bad at that one now.
Yes. Now you know what it's like.
I know, but I actually want to watch them. I'm just I'm a bit more motivated for next year for it, but I'm just don't expect much from me for the first couple of weeks of the new year, because I'm always lazy in January. There's a big thing is I am the laziest person in January. I put it off so long before I start. So expect nothing for a couple of weeks after finish.
Yeah. How about you, Chris? Any plans for your channel?
I'm gonna make a video to start off with. That'll be a strong starter, strong contender. I fell into this habit of trying to script them a little bit or trying to think about it was going to do beforehand, and it just creates chaos at the far end of going like, oh no, I don't want to say that or whatever, rather than just kind of getting stuff out there. But just keep on doing what's this. I finish off my French cinema season. I have watched Jean Dielman quite a while ago. I mean, that's a film with anxiety about what to talk about in that. Of doing that, but we'll just keep on trying to live in the great releases that keep coming our way.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Well, just continue the Jodorowsky, which has been on pause. Start the Kurosawa after Mifune, which I talked about. And then I've got another couple of director series planned after that, but
yeah,
more random reviews and double takes and nonsense.
Yeah, but I'm hoping I will start Manuel this year. I'm really hoping to get motivated and start the Manuel one because I kind of need to. I need to watch the Kurosaki stuff as well to watch Ronan's videos on them because I want to watch the films first.
Yeah.
So it's and
I've watched a couple of them.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
worth checking out.
He's such a curious man.
yeah.
With curious ideas.
Yeah. I really like his films. It's just I'm just getting motivated. This year I've found motivation kind of weird. I'm either really motivated or really not motivated. I don't know what it is. Just like I've had to look at what I've been watching. There's like some points that you're watching almost nothing good, then you're watching back-to-back great stuff, and it's like, what the hell's going on this year with me? It's like weird.
Yeah, it's been a weird couple of years.
Yeah.
Certainly has.
And it may continue to be weird.
Yes, it's not ending anytime soon.
Yeah. So is that us then? Have we tortured the audience enough?
Yes, I think so. Let us know in the comments what your favourite watches, the best films that you watched in 2021.
Yep. And also tell us what's your sickest film you've got in your collection, just for laughs. I'm just curious, that's all.
You can mind the comments there.
No, everyone's getting comments. I'm just curious to see what people. Thing is, if no one actually answers that, when no one's watched this far.
What they've missed.
Yeah. So So thanks for watching.
Everybody have a good time.
Have a great Christmas, everybody. Yep.
Cheers.
Bye.